Welcome to the Market Mystics podcast. I'm Joshua.
I'm Kim. Let's dive in. What up, you guys? We're back. I'm going to very quickly just get into this and let Josh drive this conversation.
That's funny. So this kind of stems from a conversation we were just having. It originated from an episode that's a couple weeks old where we talked about scams coming through the church system with well-intentioned people just not understanding systems, and then that ultimately causing pain and hurt. And through that, like how the importance of maturing and being a mature person is, so that yes, there are people that you will learn from. I don't think it's necessarily wrong to be submitted to somebody else who's covering you, who you're learning from, who you're walking with. But ultimately, anything that they bring to you, you shouldn't just eat straight out. Like, you should take it, you should test it, you should be mature with it. Is this something I want to eat? Is this something I want to implement into my life?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's financial advice, maybe it's spiritual advice, maybe it's relational advice. Like, even what you guys listen from us, like, don't just take it and say, well, the Market Mystic said it must be true. We're constantly growing, we're constantly evolving, and things that we said a year ago, we may not like fully hold as truth anymore because we are constantly growing. And I think it's important to realize that the other people in your life are also in that same situation. So the conversation sort of stemmed from talking about that episode into like that we're coming into a season in the world where it's more important than ever that people learn to be mature.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's always been important. I just think that it's like every day that goes by, it's more important. Like, it just is. I'm not saying anything about the state of the world or the economy, but like, just every day that you're alive, it's more important that you're maturing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking about this analogy of cars and how this is my personal kind of belief revelation on this, or maybe it's just an example that the Father gave me so that I can understand what I'm trying to talk about. But it's kind of this idea that being mature means you know how to drive a car. And for a while, there have been systems in place that have tried to convince you that there are no cars, or maybe if there is a car, that you're not mature enough to handle the car. And so you should just get on like a bus and let someone else drive you, and you can just arrive where they take you. And that there
what system do you think it is that tends to be that way? Like governmental systems, like societal systems, religious systems. What is it?
I think in general, most of them, like government for sure is heading into a direction of, let me take the responsibility for you.
Mm-hmm.
Even in like housing and economic things, we're seeing lots of we're seeing sort of a push towards being renters and car sharing, and aspects where you don't own anything. And I know that there's a famous quote from the leader of the World Economic Forum that said, you will, in the future, you will own nothing and you'll be happy, because it's a place of no responsibility. Like, if you don't have to be the owner of your home, you don't have to worry about the repairs. You don't have to worry about those things.
But who owns it? Somebody owns it.
Somebody owns it. And so I think that's the good analogy of the bus. Like
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
you can hop on the bus, somebody else will take care of the responsibility of driving. But ultimately you're going to get to a location and not one you choose. I think it's important for everyone to learn to drive the car, to learn to be mature, to learn to direct their life. And maybe they still want to go the direction that the bus is going. Like that's totally possible. But like making that decision for you and not having it be made for you, I think is important in growing up and being a mature son. And so one of the other things we talked about was how there's teachers in the world, um, some of them in churches, some of them not in churches, who are teaching people how to be mature, how to manifest things, how to take control of their life, how to be responsible. And some of them have different approaches. Some of them take the approach of like, okay, we're going to read through this driver's manual. We're going to talk about things. Maybe we'll hop in a simulator and then after that, we'll drive around an empty parking lot. And then others are like, no, we don't have time for that. Here's the keys. The gas is on the right. The highway's right there. See you later. And um, it's interesting to me because I think there is an optimal way of doing it. But then there's also a realism factor of just where we are. And this has come up in a couple other conversations we've had, Kim, where would there have been a more optimal way to accomplish a task? Yes. But the realistic view is right here where we are. That's not the optimal path isn't real. And so there's other choices that have to be made, other responsibilities that have to be taken on, maybe detours that you have to go around before you can get back to the optimal path. And when we're talking about growing up and being mature sons of God and taking responsibility in the kingdom of our Father, I like that's the analogy to me of driving a car. Like is being mature. And whether or not you're learning from someone who's just tossing you the keys and telling you to go, or whether or not you're learning from someone who's walking you through very slowly, I just think it's important that you're learning and that you're starting to take steps in that direction, and that you're not just getting on the bus of someone else's revelation, of someone else's direction, of someone else's financial advice. Like, start to take responsibility for where you are for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's good. You were talking about the optimal path, and I was thinking about, I mean, every decision that you make has a consequence, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might be good, bad. It might give life. It might not. It might lead you down that optimal path, and it might take you on a detour, but there's a consequence for every decision you make or for every action that you take. And I would argue that, well, I don't even know that I'm arguing this. It seems like kind of the state in which we've gotten, and we've talked about this in a couple other episodes too. Like there's a quote I sent you on Instagram that really just like grinded on me a bit, right? And it had to do with like just being subject to whatever is thrown at you and not really taking any responsibility for how things go. Anyway, I'm talking about consequences for things that you do. I think that we've gotten to this place, a lot of society has gotten to this place of wanting to just lay down and not make any movement and let things come to them. But that in itself is also an action. I would say that inaction is still an action.
Yeah.
And there are still consequences to that. So consequences being you don't have any control over how your life goes. You don't have any say on which direction you're going. there's a lot of responsibility that's taken away that maybe you don't actually want to give up. I mean, you go to a wedding and you're offered the option of chicken or beef, but maybe if you just lay down and take it, you get the option of saltines. That's it. Because you don't want to make a decision. So a decision will be made for you, and it's not going to be optimal in any way. And it won't even be as good as the two options that you were presented with first.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so I would say that I think there are consequences for all these things, but in those consequences are the ways in which we learn. This is how we move down one path or another, whether we are still on the optimal path or if we're on a detour and heading back toward the optimal path, or maybe not headed toward the optimal path, whatever. But every little step that you take is a lesson in this journey, and you're still taking responsibility. I don't think you have to like go and think you're going to rule the world and be like, I'm taking that responsibility right now. That's not it. But can you govern in the ways in which you need to in your life so that then on down the path, you can govern in bigger ways, right? Can you get yourself out of bed this morning, right? Can you brush your teeth today? Can you govern that in your life? Can you choose the white shoes or the black shoes? Like, can you make even small decisions? Can you choose chicken or beef, right? And from those decisions, learn, advance, and keep moving down the road. I think that's the way that I'm seeing it. This is what I'm talking about. And with taking responsibility, you've got to be able to keep moving. Otherwise, all of that responsibility will be taken away from you, and you'll still be subject to decision making or to the decisions that have been made, except they're not your own consequences. You just have to deal with them.
Yeah. At my last job, my boss was really interested in estate planning. And he used to say all the time, like, if you don't have a will, if you don't have an estate plan, you may think, well, I just don't have one. But he goes, no, the state has one for you, and you're not going to like the way they choose to work it. And I think that that's like, that applies in a lot of areas in life. Like, you may think, oh, I just don't have a plan for how I'm going to deal with that. And that's okay because there's just no plan. But there is a plan that's set up within like society and the world that will make the choices for you. And it may not be what you want. And I think that that's just like, that's what, if I could encourage people, it's even if it's just simple things. And I understand it's way more work to be the one making the decisions. But I'm not telling you got to make decisions about every single aspect of your life, but just start simply with like a few things. Like, Kim and I did an episode a while back, quite a while ago at this point now, but it was called like Make Your Bed. And it was just the importance of like, can you just get up every day and make your bed? Can you do the little things? Can you be responsible in the little things? And I know it's a biblical principle of um like if you're faithful with the little, he'll give you more. And then that plays right into like the Matthew effect that Mark Wilburn's talked about on our show quite a bit, of the rich get richer and the poor get poor, which is kind of the concept. It's that concept of if you are faithful with the little things, you'll get more. If you're not faithful with it, it'll be taken from you. And it'll be given to those who have more. It'll be given to those that have shown themselves to be responsible and faithful. And like my heart really is for people to thrive. Like that's my heart, is for people to thrive in their identities, in their walks with Father, in their lives, in their finances. Like it's truly what I want from society. But it takes you choosing to step up once in a while.
Yeah. I think also we've talked about this a lot, like having an awareness that there is a choice, right? And then you put yourself in a position where then you can make a choice, right? So even if it's the tiniest little step like that, yeah, I'm not trying to say you need to take on all of the decision making of all of the world.
Right.
But I think there are different levels of responsibility. And just as humans, I think we can take up some responsibility here and there. And then you might be amazed at how you'll wind up advancing because of that. Yeah.
I think that's good. It's our heart for you to thrive. It's our heart for you to be responsible, to make good choices, so that then we can partner with those around us to make good choices for our countries and our cities and our communities, and like, so that the things we want to see, like, stop taking a mindset of it's someone else's problem, and let's take responsibility for where the world is at. And I think we can change it. And I don't think it's that hard. I really don't think it's that hard to change. It just requires a community of people who have chosen to start making decisions together.
That's really good. That gets me all kinds of fired up. I'm like, yes, let's do that. Let's be that community. Can we be that community?
I think we can.
If you make an effort and I make an effort, then we can make this effort.
Yes.
I love it. Good topic today, Josh.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, you guys, we'll see you again next time.
See ya. Thank you for sticking around. Listen for new episodes every Monday and Thursday. Find us on all social media platforms by searching for Market Mystics. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Visit upperroomcd.com, where you can find more information about the hosts, projects, and guests. Go deeper by booking a coaching appointment focused on redefining identity and wealth in your life. See you next time.